Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Reborn Dolls with Karen. We're back with our little baby Autumn. She had her bake and this is how she looks. You can see her face is real blushy, but up here where I blushed her forehead, you can't see it at all. So we are going to put a little more on her face. I'm not satisfied with the way it looks. I want her face to have enough blush that it actually shows after we put the paint on. Mostly I'm going to put it up here on her forehead because that's where it didn't take very well. And pounce it around a bit. Sometimes you can do it pretty good with just a sponge, one of these harder, denser sponges. Sometimes you need to use your kabuki. That's better, see? A lot of that'll be under hair, but still, we want to finish our doll just like we're going to if it's going to be bald, because you never know when you have to stop working on a doll. And we don't want to stop her and her not have any color. Some people don't even do anything to the head up here because they're going to put hair on it. But I had a doll get a split in their head one time, and I had to stop. I had to stop working on her. She was almost finished, so I just let her be a light baby. But then I couldn't root her because it would just split her head more. So I glued it back together with some super glue, but I was still afraid if I pushed a needle in and out of her head over and over again, it was just going to split back open. So I let her be a bald baby. But see, you couldn't do that if you didn't paint the head. So always paint your doll completely everywhere, just like you are if it's going to be a bald baby. Okay, now we're going to work on her hands and feet a little bit. We're going to put a little bit of blue on the bottom of her foot. It's going to be just a little bit, and it's going to be right here where the arch of the foot would be if a baby had an arch. A lot of the dolls, this one doesn't seem to have an arch, but a lot of them, they actually make an arch on the foot. Babies don't have arches, they have just fat pads on the bottom of their feet. And we're going to put it on this one. She has the loveliest little chubby feet. She's going to be such a cute little baby. Chubby legs and chubby arms. Most of the dolls have skinny little arms and skinny little legs, but she's just chubby. If you ever, I do a lot of switching limbs. If you ever want a chubby baby and you don't have chubby limbs, this would be one you'd want to use the arms and legs of because it's so cute. So adorable little limbs. Okay, now the rest of the foot, we're going to just paint with red. I'm going to start with the bottom of the foot. We're going to avoid the part where we put the blue. And we're just going to paint the entire bottom of the foot like we did the ears and stuff in step one. Little pink bottoms on the bottoms of their feet are so adorable. We're going to avoid this part where the blue is because if we cover it up, it might turn purple. So I'm not covering it up. I don't want purple on the bottom of my doll's foot. But there are some uses for purple. It is called eyelid purple after all. The color I'm using now is Lip Nail Blush, same color I was using before. It's a pre-mixed color. I only added a little bit of blue to it because it was slightly too pink for me. You wanted a really deep, dark red that is, I'm trying to think of the right word, almost a wine or a blood color. Now this is how the foot looks now. Now on the top of the foot, we're just going to do just the toes. Now, if you do the bottom and the top of the toes, you got to remember to get the sides because it looks kind of weird if you just do the tops and the bottoms and you don't do the sides of the toe. When you do the tops and the bottoms, you're indicating the toes are all red, and so the sides should be red too, and the tips up here. See, don't forget these little tips. You're just doing the bottom and just the top, you miss some of that. and so you have to go back and get it. And this is optional too. You don't have to do any of these enhancements that I do at all. I didn't used to enhance my dolls at all. I just painted them. But then I decided I wanted them to look a little different, and so I started doing enhancements. They're cute. They just look cute on the baby. Now we're going to do this foot the same way. When you're painting with dry paint, you don't have to worry about it getting down in the creases. Now when you're using wet paint, you'll notice that when you're painting the foot, it's just running down into those cracks, and you have to make sure you get it out of those cracks. Or one thing that happens if you don't is you just messed up all your creases. It's not going to be any creases because it's covered over with paint. And another thing is it's going to start to look dirty after a few coats if you don't get it out. It's going to start to look like you have a baby that crawled around outside in the mud or something. They're going to have dirty looking feet. This is losing its red real fast. Sometimes it's worth it just to get out another brush so you don't have to brush so much. Yeah, I think I'm going to get out another brush. Oh, let's see. Go a lot faster that way. Yeah, that's a lot redder already. I did an oopsie and overlapped a little on the blue. Oh well, we'll just live with it. And now I'm going to do the tops of the toes like I did on the other foot. Some people do the entire foot. Some people do only parts of the toes. Some people do just the bottom. It's just a personal choice on what you want to do. This is what I like, so it's what I do. I've done dolls in many different ways in the past, and I sort of zeroed in on what I think looks the best. I love those pink little toes. They're just so cute. Now on the hands, we're going to do a similar thing. I don't paint any part of the hand. I just paint the fingers. Okay, so we're going to paint the fingers. If they were up, we'd paint the bottoms and the tops. But since they're not up, we're just going to paint the tops and whatever of the sides we can get. Some people just paint the fingertips. And I literally mean the fingertips, just the very tips of the fingers. Some people paint the entire hand. Some people paint little sections of the hand where it looks like, oh, I don't even know how to describe it. It looks like the actual knuckle part didn't get painted, just the little sections in between the knuckles. So if it was like your hand, you'd paint up here, then you'd paint here, then you'd paint here. And they do that, and all of them look good. I've done all three different ways, but I like this way. It's a little bit easier, and it still looks really good. Painting the whole hand doesn't look as good as painting only just the fingers, or parts of the finger look good too, but the parts of the finger are a lot more tedious to do. I mean, you can do them, by all means you can do them, but it takes a lot longer and a steadier hand than I have. So I just stick with trying to do the fingers. It still looks good to me, and it's not so hard to do, and I can get through it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Dab it a little. We don't want it to be very dark. We just want it to be pinker than the rest of the hand. We want it to show. We do want that, and that does show. So now we're going to do this one the same way, and then we're going to renew the lips and the nails. Every time we paint the doll and we're about to put it in the oven, we do the lips and the nails until we get them to the color that we like. You know, they all have to be covered pretty evenly. They have to be a certain color, whatever color you like, and when they get to that, you can stop painting them because it's going to hold. Oh, I don't like them real light, but I don't like them super dark either. They just get to that certain color, and then when you feel satisfied, you just go, okay, that's the color I was looking for. I'm finished with the lips and nails now. Sometimes you might get lips or nails finished to the color you want, but the other one's not. Like the lips might not quite be there yet, but you think the nails are. Or some of the nails are a little bit darker than others. You just touch up the ones that need it and leave the other ones alone. And that way you catch them up. Okay, that is her fingers, and her toes are all done. And they're cute. And they're going to be real cute when she's finished. Look at that. Cute little fingers. Now I'm going to just do her nails and her lips again. They're not near dark enough yet. And we're going to get her back in the oven. And this time when she comes out, she will be ready for her layers. I can tell she's dark enough. So I'm just going to paint her lips again. Each time you paint the lips, you can go slightly darker if you want to. The first couple of layers I like to just keep really thin. Now when we put her first layer on, I might go a little bit darker. And then her second layer will be her last coat of lips and nails. At that point, I'm already to the color I want, if not before. That's 4 layers. 1, 2, yeah, that's 4 layers of color. If you can't get it by then you're not going to probably get it. By all means, if you don't get it, you just keep putting it on, but I'm there by then. Like I said, each layer you put on, you can go a little bit darker if you want to. And these funny looking eyebrows are going to fade a little bit. They won't look so funny looking when she comes to the end. They're going to be a little funny looking because I got them too high, but I'm going to live with them because I'm not real good at eyebrows anyway. And so it's a little bit hard for me to get them right. And I was going to buy this eyebrow stencil, but I snoozed and didn't do it. And it was Preemie Doll eye stencils, lots of different styles that you could just lay the stencil up there and kind of just pencil it in. And I didn't do it, so I lost it. I left it on my watch list a little too long, and now it's not available anymore. I guess they're popular stencils. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put a little in her nose again. We need that nose to have color inside of it. Even though we're going to put every layer of color that we put on the doll inside the nose, we still need a little extra color in there. So we're going to put it in there again, and hopefully by the time we're finished painting her, she'll have a color in her nose. It's very hard to get to take any color that you can actually see with your eyes. I mean, it doesn't mean it's not colored. It just means you can't appreciate the color because it doesn't really show. And it tends to look like a void or something. Okay, we're going to go over her nails again, same like we did before. We're just going to paint them on, just very lightly. The nails are a little more touchy than the lips. You have to be very careful with the nails, or you get those funny looking, weird nails. Those is itching. So we're going to just keep doing this until we're satisfied with the nails. And same thing is true with the nails. Every coat you go a little darker if you want to. I like the first couple coats to just be super light. And that way it's, once the paint starts building up on the nails, it's a little bit easier for it to stick and not run, and so it can get a little thicker. But I want to keep those layers really thin until that point. And if you want to tip your doll's nails and not do a special coat just for tipping, you have to be done with the color on the nails before you get to the last coat of paint, because on the last coat of paint you'd want to tip the nails instead of paint them. Be careful how you lay it down. You know what? Just put your doll on your drying rack. I made my drying rack out of, my son has a wood shop, and for a while I lived in the attic over his wood shop. And I just went down there one day. I said, I need a drying rack. And I went down there and I found me a board, found me some dowels, went over to his drill press and drilled some holes in it. And then I just stuck the dowels in there and glued them in. Bing, bang, boom, done. Got a really nice wooden drying rack. And I didn't pay $50 for it. It was practically free. Well, to me it was free, so. He has all kinds of scrap wood in his wood shop. But if you have to do it yourself, all you need is a board that's about 1 by 1 inch thick. I'd say that's 8 inches deep. I don't know. You can go a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, depending on how close together you're willing to have your dowels. And I drilled the holes. I put tall dowels in the back, short dowels in the front. Tall dowels are for the heads. Short dowels are for the arms and legs. But my heads usually have stuffing in them because it helps them not to collapse. So when you have stuffed heads, you can't put them on the dowels. So I ended up putting legs or something on the dowels, and I have, this one holds 2 dolls, and that one holds 2 dolls, so that's 4 dolls. But if you don't put the heads on there, you can get 1 extra doll on there because there's enough for the limb, and then the heads just sit on the, in between the dowels on the wood. That's what I do. Anyway, it holds a lot of dolls. The only time I put that many dolls on there is when I'm sealing dolls. I don't like to seal dolls, so once I get the sealer out, I'm going to seal 4 or 5 dolls at one time. And then I leave them. They have to be on the drying rack. If you lay them on the table, they're going to get all kind of stuff stuck in their sealer. And then when you bake it, it'll be in there forever. And you don't want that. And so I put them on the drying rack and I leave them for a couple days till they get a little bit dry, and then I bake them, because otherwise they'll stick to the liner in your New Wave oven as well. But one thing you don't want to do is have anything stuck in your sealer, and because it just makes a messy doll. And while we're talking about sealers, all sealers are not created equal. The thing, you have to decide, what do you want from your sealer? The purpose in sealing first, for me, is that it preps the doll to be able to take the paint better. There's certain areas on dolls that sometimes won't take any paint, and you just are stuck trying to get it to take paint, and it just won't. And so by sealing, you take care of that issue. The paint sticks so good to the sealer that it makes the doll much better at the end. And you'll find there's no need to seal at the end after you sealed first. The paint is so permanent, it's not coming off. And it gives them a texture. A good sealer has a texture. You can feel it. Some people actually put a texture layer on their dolls. If they just get something that's texture. and put it on there. But the sealer does that, so you don't have to do that. But whatever kind of paint you choose, you don't have to go with that kind of sealer. Let's see, for heat set, there was Gemini. There's Gemini. That's what I use. I use almost exclusively all Gemini. And there's Beatrice Clementi, and there's Irresistibles, and I'm sure there's other kinds that I'm not thinking of. Never tried anything Irresistibles, but I did try Beatrice Clementi, and her paint is creamy and good. Same problem with the blush, though. It's too pink. Genesis had the best, but Genesis went out of business. And they replaced it with Gemini. Gemini paint is a little too pink. The blush is a little too pink. I just add a little bit of blue into it to make it a little darker and not so pink. But if you're going to use Beatrice Clementi paint, let me warn you about the sealer. It starts setting up on its own. As you're using it, it sets up very fast. Becomes super hard and crunchy. So crunchy, the doll feels like it's literally sandpaper. It is too crunchy for me. I don't even use the Gemini straight from the jar. You get it in a jar like this. This is actually thinning medium, but the matte varnish comes in a jar like this as well. And I pour it in a bigger jar. This is glue, but it's similar. And then I put some thinning medium in it. And a little bit of regular paint thinner that I have in this little thing. And mix it all up real good, and then I put it on the dolls, and it's not as hard and crunchy, but it still is got a texture to it. If you want pencils to write on your doll, your sealer has to have a texture. I don't know anything about Irresistible paint. I've never used any of it. I'm sure it's great paint, but I've never used their sealer either, so I don't know what it's like. Most of the time they call it varnish. Varnish and sealer are basically the same thing. In fact, Bountiful Baby says you can even use thinning medium to seal your doll with. But I don't know. I did a side-by-side test. This is smoother. If you want a smoother finish and you're not planning on using any pencils on your doll, this will work. But it didn't give as rich of a color on the doll. I didn't like it as well. So I went back to the sealer. I do cut it down a little with some of this to make it not so rough. But this is very smooth. But I think the texture's important, but it's a preference. If you want a smoother doll, just use this. It does work. It's just not as good. But if you don't mind a slight texture on your doll, they're not super rough. They're just kind of rough. And if you don't mind the texture, then you'd make a mixture. I'd put a whole jar of this in there. No, a whole jar of the matte varnish in my jar. Here's my jar right here. It's an 8-ounce jar. So it ended up being 8 ounces. So I put this whole 4-ounce thing, this size of matte varnish in there. And then I put about half of this in there. And then I put a little bit of paint thinner. And then I mixed it up real good with a stick. I get these little popsicle sticks. You can get them at Walmart in the craft department. But I got these from Dolls by Sandy. They were real cheap. 50 of them was 50 cents. That's a penny a stick. You can't beat that with a stick. Anyway, I just pounce it on with a very swollen looking little sponge, because the sealer never really gets hard. It never is. This is still soft and wet and gooey, and just like it was when I applied it on my dolls about 3 or 4 days ago, because these dolls are already baked and everything. I did 4 of them at a time. I did Ashley's already painted. I did Ashley and Dominic. Dominic's finished now. He just had his final bake. And I'm on this one, and I have one more over here, which is Madison sleeping, I believe. And I sealed that many dolls. and it was a few days ago, and this one is still wet from it. It's gooey and wet still, which goes to show you it doesn't really dry all that well. It's always going to feel gummy, kind of. That's how you know if your doll is baked enough. Is you bake it, you turn it over, you bake it again, but you got to cool it in between. And then when it comes out, if it still has any gooey feel to it at all, you're going to bake it a third time. Uh, but usually 2 times is enough. And you have to completely cool it to room temperature in between. And so that's how you do the sealer. You just pounce it on like paint and make sure every part's covered and it's not too thick. If it's getting on too thick, you just take a clean sponge and pounce a tiny bit of it off until it's it looks uniform and even. And you don't want super thick and you don't want super thin. I like it in between. Anyway, that's how you do it. And then it gives you this finish on your doll that is so wonderful. Until you experience it, you don't really know. If you've ever painted a bare vinyl doll, you know that the paint is not sticking very well. And once you put the sealer on and you paint the doll, then the difference is like night and day. That's why I do it, because I know from experience that it works. Now, a lot of people say it's not necessary. And necessary? No, nothing that you do is necessary. You pick what you want to do. But to me, it's necessary because it makes your doll so much better. And so, in my mind, it is necessary. So that's just a little tip of how to decide if you're going to put it on there or not. If you've ever done it without, I mean, you're going to see the difference. You're going to see immediately, oh, the paint is going on so good, you're going to be telling yourself. I don't even know. I wasn't dry brushing any of my dolls when I didn't seal. There was a time I didn't seal my dolls either. And so it was like, I don't know if it would have taken even. I don't even know. I just know it does when you seal. And some of the stuff I tell you only works if you do it the way I do. Some of it, you can do it other ways. I mean, to dry brush, and dry brushing is a beautiful way to paint because there's no mess. You don't have all that gunky looking. You don't know what the mess is like until you really start painting a doll and you start trying to paint a vein or paint the creases, and then you start trying to paint the pink on the fingers. It's just so hard to get it out of those creases. So anything I can do with dry brushing, I do. Now, you can't paint an entire doll with dry brushing. I mean, in the realm of possibility, it's probably possible, but you'd have to have 1,000 brushes dipped in each color to be able to paint the entire doll like that. And then it would just be super hard. So I do use wet paint. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But while we're sitting here talking, I'm just going to dip these 2 red brushes I just used on these dolls so they'll be ready for next time. I have jars sitting across behind my camera there, and they're for the colors of paint that I use. I don't wash my brushes at all, not these, because I have different brushes for each color. So I just dip them just like that and put them in the jar, and then they dry in time. By tomorrow, they'll be touchable dry, but they'll still be deep down inside a little bit wet. And so I use so much red, so much. I have 3 jars of red brushes. But most of the brushes, I just have a few of each color like this. I have a kabuki for each color, and I have one of these bulb syringes for each color in case you want to siphon out any color and make a new color. You don't want to be sticking the red one in the yellow or something. You're just mixing your paint up that way. But I have this color is one of the colors I put all over my doll. And I have 2 other colors. So I have brushes for those. But this one I have 3 jars of brushes for. Then I have purple and blue and yellow. And I forgot what that color was down there. It must have been some color I was using that I only mixed temporarily or something. And then I mix this to make the nail color, the nail and lip color. It's just thinning medium with color in it. And this is truly Genesis Red. Before they went out of business, I mixed this, and that's how long I've been using this. You don't use, this one will last you and last you and last you for just the longest time, because you only use tiny bits at a time. So it's going to last a really long time. I used an entire jar of thinning medium to make this. And I would have a lot more, but I took some out to make the scratch stuff. I took some out to make other colors sometimes because I needed a dark, thick color. And so a lot of it had been taken out to mix something else. And so I would have almost a full jar still. That's how little you use. But to mix my red, I stopped using the lip nail blush. I forgot that. Oh yeah, I mixed this nail tip too. Well, that's actually is nail tip. I mixed this nail tip. I had mixed it in one of these little caps. One of these little caps right here. And I thought I was mixing just enough to tip nails with one time, but it was so much in there, I saved it. And I put it in this little Ziploc bag. There's my stuff for the scratches, for the baby scratches. And I didn't want it to dry out, so I'm too cheap to throw it out. Anyway, I mixed this nail tip the same way I mixed that. I just used thinning medium and nail tip color. It's real thick like that, and you put it on with a toothpick. And to mix the scratch stuff, I didn't use thinning medium. I used thick medium. Thick medium is much globbier and thicker, and it causes it to be almost 3D, and if you can feel it on the baby's face. You can rub your finger across the scratch and actually feel the scratch, because, well, it's a scratch. And let's see, what else? I try to give some little tips at the end of the video so people will watch them to the end. Anyway, oh yeah, the color I used to mix my red now. I changed to this color because, oh well, I'm knocking stuff around over there. I was trying to get a color that was darker because the lip nail blush is so pink. I mean, so pink. And this looks super dark, but it mixes kind of pink too, but not as pink. This is quinacridine. I don't know how to say that word. I'll just show you. Crimson, #1. I think they have another one that's a lighter color. But anyway, I put this in there, and then I put a tiny bit of blue in it, and it comes out to this really deep, bloody looking color. And that's the color you want. It's not going to go on that dark, but it needs to be that dark to come out to the right color. But that's what I put. Anyway, I mixed lots of paint the other day, and I have extra jars over there at the side. I hate mixing paint too. I hate it. Anyway, that's the end of this video. We're going to get her in the oven and get her baked, so when we come back, we'll be able to start on her layers. So I'm just going to remind everybody to please like, subscribe, and share, and happy reborning.